Hey everyone, welcome back to my UGC NET Criminology lecture series. Today we are going to learn labeling theory. What if a person becomes a criminal not because what they did but because of what society calls them? What if the real problem is not the crime itself but the reaction to it? Today we are going to explore one of the most powerful and thought-provoking theories in criminology. Labeling theory is a sociological approach in criminology that completely changes the way we understand crime and deviance. Traditional theories focus on why individuals commit crimes, whether due to poverty, psychological issues, or biological factors, but labeling theory shifts the focus from the act to the reaction. It argues that no act is inherently criminal. Instead, an act becomes criminal only when society labels it as such. This theory was developed by scholars like Howard Becker, Edwin Lemert, and Frank Tannenbaum. According to them, deviance is not a quality of the act itself but a consequence of the application of rules and sanctions by others. In simple terms, people become deviant because society identifies and treats them that way. The theory highlights that social groups create deviance by making rules and then applying those rules to particular individuals, labeling them as outsiders. Once a person is labeled as a criminal, that label begins to dominate their identity, affecting how others see them and how they see themselves. To understand labeling theory deeply, we need to look at the concepts introduced by Edwin Lemert. He distinguished between primary deviance and secondary deviance. Primary deviance refers to the initial act of rule breaking. This could be minor, occasional, or even accidental. Many people engage in such acts at some point in their life, like minor theft, cheating in exams, or violating traffic rules. However, these acts do not define a person's identity at this stage. The turning point comes with societal reaction, when society notices the act and begins to label the individual as a criminal or deviant. The situation changes. This leads to secondary deviance, where the individual internalizes the label and begins to act according to it. The label becomes part of their identity, and they may continue committing crimes because they feel that society has already defined them that way. In several metropolitan cities in India, such as Mumbai and Delhi, studies and reports have shown that young boys from economically weaker sections are often subjected to police suspicion and social stigma. These youths are frequently picked up for questioning in cases of theft, burglary, or street crimes, even when there is little or no concrete evidence against them. For example, there have been multiple documented instances where minors from slum areas were detained by police merely on suspicion of involvement in mobile thefts or petty crimes. Even when these individuals were later released due to lack of evidence, the damage had already been done. Their detention becomes known within their communities, schools, and social circles. As a result, these young individuals begin to face discrimination. Teachers may treat them differently, assuming they are troublemakers. Employers may refuse to hire them. Neighbors may avoid them or see them as a threat. Over time, this constant negative perception isolates them from mainstream society. This social rejection plays a crucial role. When legitimate opportunities are denied and a person is continuously treated as a criminal, they may begin to accept that identity. Many such youths eventually get involved in organized criminal activities or gangs, not necessarily because they initially intended to, but because society has pushed them in that direction. This clearly demonstrates labeling theory in action. The initial act of suspicion, primary deviance, was not enough to define them. It was a societal reaction and labeling that led to secondary deviance. A very significant and real example of labeling theory in the Indian context can be seen in the history of Denotified Tribes. During the British colonial rule, the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871 classified certain communities as criminal tribes, meaning that individuals born in these communities were automatically considered criminals by birth. Even after independence, when the act was repealed and these communities were denotified, the stigma did not disappear. Society and law enforcement agencies continued to view them with suspicion. Many members of these communities are still subjected to police surveillance and are often the first suspects in criminal investigations in their areas. Because of this persistent labeling, individuals from these communities face several social and economic exclusion. They struggle to access education, employment, and basic social acceptance. Even when they try to live law-abiding lives, they are constantly reminded of the label imposed on them. Over time, this exclusion has led some individuals within these communities to engage in criminal activities, not because of inherent criminal tendencies, but because legitimate opportunities are systematically denied to them. This case powerfully illustrates how labels imposed by authority and society can shape life trajectories. The label of criminal becomes a master status, overshadowing all other aspects of a person's identity. Labeling theory also emphasizes that not everyone is equally likely to be labeled. Power plays a crucial role in determining who gets labeled as deviant. Individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, marginalized communities, or minority groups are more likely to be labeled and targeted by law enforcement. On the other hand, individuals from powerful or privileged backgrounds may engage in similar or even more serious acts but escape labeling due to their status. This selective enforcement of rules shows that deviance is not just about behavior but also about who has the authority to define and enforce norms. Despite its importance, labeling theory has been criticized for certain limitations. One major criticism is that it does not adequately explain why individuals commit the initial act of deviance. It focuses more on societal reaction than on the root causes of crime. Additionally, not all individuals who are labeled as criminals go on to commit further crimes. Some resist the label and successfully reintegrate into society. Therefore, the theory may overemphasize the impact of labeling. However, even with these criticisms, labeling theory remains extremely valuable because it highlights the role of society in creating and reinforcing deviance. Labeling theory teaches us that crime is not just about laws being broken, it is about how society reacts to those who break them. A label once applied can change a person's identity, opportunities, and future. In many cases, it is not the crime but the reaction to the crime that pushes individuals deeper into deviance. In simple terms, society does not identify criminals, it can also create them. If you found this detailed explanation helpful for your UGC NET preparation, make sure to subscribe to the channel Criminology and Forensic Science for more in-depth and easy to understand content. And don't forget to attempt the practice questions given in the link in the description or comment section. Test your understanding and let me know your score. See you in the next video.